Wouldn't it be great if you had the world's best music teacher on speed dial so you could get their advice whenever you wanted it? Well, I can't give you that, but I can give you something pretty close. It's quick and easy to do and scientifically proven to be effective, and I'll show you just how to use it in this video. Hey friends, Mark Morley-Fletcher here and welcome back to the channel. Now, the best in the world in any field and definitely in music get coaching. They get people to advise them. And this is partly because that extra experience you can draw on is really helpful. But it's also because having an external perspective is hugely important too. Because when you're in the middle of things, when you're about to perform, when you're practicing, when you're trying to work out what you need to focus on, you can get just too close to things. You are caught up in what you're doing, in emotions, in the details, and sometimes having someone who is a step back, is less emotionally involved, can just give you a different perspective that can be hugely helpful. But we don't all have the option of just calling up someone to get their help, particularly someone who knows us well, who's really experienced, just whenever we want it. So what can we do instead? And luckily, it turns out that being your own coach is actually really helpful here. So what do I mean by this? I mean, you can talk yourself through a challenging situation as though you were advising someone else. So imagine your best friend or colleague or whatever comes up to you and asks for your advice in the situation you're in. You can just give that advice as if it's to help another person rather than you. And you can just do it in the moment. Most of the time, if there's anyone around, you just think those thoughts in your head. You don't actually have to be saying it out loud, but out loud is good as well if you have that option. So when you find yourself in that situation where you would just love to be able to put that phone call through to someone who is more experienced, who's going to give you encouraging advice, remember that actually coaching yourself as if you're someone else is shown to have that similar effect, not quite to the same level, but it's definitely very beneficial. And this can help whether you're feeling nervous about an upcoming performance, you're struggling and frustrated with something in the practice room, whatever it is, whenever you feel something isn't quite going to plan, and you know from experience that other people's advice has sometimes made you just stop and think and see, oh, okay, it's not as bad as I thought, or, oh, it's given you an insight into, actually, I was doing this, but I should do that instead. You can do it to yourself. So really the only thing you have to do is to remember to actually put this into practice. And that does take some memory, thinking, okay, yes, I'm going to do this. But there is a nice little way of getting in the habit of doing it that automatically gets you doing this without even really having to think about it. And better still, scientific research into this has shown that it's actually more effective than doing the self-coaching without this. So what is it? It is as simple as using your own name. So you're not just thinking, I'm going to coach myself, and you give advice, do this, think about that, don't think about that, and tell me when you're done, or whatever it is. You're actually going to go in there and use your own name and say, so in my case, I would say, okay, Mark, I want you to think about this. I want you to tell me, is that really the best thing for you to be doing, Mark? Is it helpful? And just using that name in there is automatically disassociating yourself from the situation, because hopefully you don't always talk to yourself like that. And by doing it, you're automatically putting yourself in that role of your own coach. And the really great thing about this is, as I said, scientific studies have shown that this demonstrably improves people's performance under stress in a pressure situation. And it does it by more than if people were coaching themselves, self-coaching, but not using their own name. So it sounds too good to be true. It's ridiculously simple. Just use your own name when you're giving yourself advice, but it has real impacts. So I think you'd be crazy not to do this. Such a quick, easy, simple thing to do, proven performance. Just get out there and do it. And by the way, if what I'm sharing with you is useful, then I would love it if you just give this video a like. Thank you. Now, I think the only thing left is really just to get an idea of, well, what are you going to say to yourself when you coach yourself? Now, I go really deep into self-talk and how to use it well in my Unlock Your Performance course. So if you're an Unlock Your Performance student, head over to the course, check out Module 2 for some great stuff there. But I want to give you a few ideas here. And the first thing is really, it's common sense is going to help. It's as simple as when we think, this is one of the reasons why self-coaching works so well, when we think of how would I advise someone else in this situation, the common sense answer that comes to our mind is usually a pretty good one. And the other thing to bear in mind is just simple things and encouraging things. Just imagine you're not even an expert in the situation, but you've got a friend who's struggling and you want to encourage them. Those sorts of things, saying you can do it, stick with it, all that sort of stuff is really helpful. So let's just look at a couple of examples, remembering I'm going to use the name in there. So if I'm looking to help myself out in the practice room, when I'm getting frustrated or tempted to quit or something, I might say something like, okay, Mark, stick with it here. You only need to focus for a few minutes, give it your full attention, then you can just relax, let the mind wander, and finish. And if I'm feeling a little bit nervous before a performance, maybe I'm just nervous overall, maybe I feel I haven't prepared as much as I would like, we might get something like, okay, Mark, you've got this. Everyone gets a bit nervous before a performance. It's actually a very normal human response and it's actually a helpful one. So stick with it, you're going to do great. Now, it's worth having several different tools that can boost your performance in a pressure situation. And there's actually a really quick and simple and effective one that only relies on you changing how you focus your vision. So I definitely recommend you check out my video on a simple neuroscience tip to calm nerves next. And if you'd like the special practice and performance tips that I only share with subscribers, then head on over to playinthezone.com and sign up for the emails. They're free. I've been Morley-Fletcher. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.